channel. My name is Shamika and this is Check the Rhymes. I'm not even going to go through the whole drill because you already know what to do. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And then check me out at my media partner, sweet929.tv. And don't forget, because it is Black Music Month, there is a contest running. You have to go back to the video with Tamichi and enter there. The deadline is June 30th and you do not want to miss out on that spectacular prize. So now that I got all the housekeeping out of the way, joining me today, well, here's a hint. The big hoop earrings. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you. Grammy award-winning singer, Jody Watley. She is one of my absolute favorites to talk to, and I cannot wait to talk to her about her new project, Healing. And I want to visit her second album, Larger Than Life, and get some of the stories behind the music. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Joining me today is Jody Watley, the legend herself. Welcome to Check the Rhymes, Jody.
Thank you. Happy to be with you.
And happy Black Music Month.
Thank you. Same to you. I mean, you know, it's really that every month, but it's great that it's designated to remind people of the richness of our music.
Absolutely. So before I dip into that topic, I definitely, I know that like a lot of people always, and I know I asked you this like I think it was 2 years ago, actually. Yeah. Or 3 years ago when we last spoke. But I wanted to just see if the answer has changed at all. Is there any specific highlight in your career that is like your top favorite or even your top 3 favorites?
All of it really, but if I'm always going to go to winning the Grammy Award for Best New Artist. It was such a shocker. And my solo debut album was just so phenomenal in so many ways, and no one expected it, including me. And so just that whole experience, going to Paris to do Still a Thrill is probably high up there too, but definitely that night at Radio City Music Hall. And rest in peace, Little Richard, because he also made that presentation one of the historic TV moments in Grammy history.
Well, which actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that I feel like, I know I preach it all the time on Twitter, and I know a lot of others do, about honoring our legends while you're here. Like, what are your thoughts on that too?
I definitely agree, because it just seems as though, especially now with social media, it takes someone, passing away and then everybody's, oh, we love them. And so it's great to give roses while we are here. And, different things I try to do in my social media. I know with Little Richard, for instance, I posted previously and not long before too. I think when the Grammys, I usually post that clip and I talk about him, and another time that, seeing him doing promotional tours and different artists that I've enjoyed or met. It's important. And I think now, with Black Music Month, it's I appreciate those like you who appreciate veteran artists. Recently in the pandemic, a lot of us have gone to D-Nice Club Quarantine.
Oh, yes.
And I have to shout him out because he has been so great at playing the music, veteran artist. I mean, he also debuted my new single, but shouting us out and letting, the kids know that may not know. And that doesn't happen often. And so I appreciate him for exposing so many of us to, this new social media generation. And so it's beautiful, but it is important to, it's like, give me my things while I'm here.
Right. And it was, for me, it was amazing to see, to actually be in the building when you were at Black Music Honors in Nashville and you received the Crossover Icon Award. And I believe actually that's when we met. And it was just like, I just remember thinking like, wow, this is like historical. I'm watching Jody Watley on stage right now, but you know, moments like that, I am so grateful that I could, you know, be there to actually see it in person.
Thank you. And actually that night I got to put in my top 5 too, because, you know, I don't get a lot of props for, you know, a lot of the influence that I've had on, you know, superstar females that have come after me.
Yeah.
Even, you know, when I came out. And so to receive that honor, Black Music Honor, Crossover Music Icon, it just meant the world to me. And I, you know, I was thinking about it. It's like I talked way too long in my speech, but I was so much in gratitude. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I'm very great show too, great broadcast, very classy, and so I'm very proud of that.
Yes, and I wanted people to make sure.
You know, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got to say again, and they do an exceptional job because they honor artists, producers that aren't you know, a lot of these award shows, the same ones kind of rotated around and around, and kudos to them also because they don't give you the obvious choices, and I thank them for that.
Absolutely. And I was going to tell everyone that the interview that we did after that, like, I'm going to make sure I put that in the description because we talk a lot about, you know, you being a crossover icon. And I just was like, you know, I don't necessarily want to rehash all of that since we've already talked about it, but they can go read it. But it's such a great interview. Exactly. It's one of my top 5 favorites because the impact that you've had on not only just music, but fashion as well. And we talked about that. So I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, of course, you mentioned D Nice at Club Quarantine playing your new single, Healing. And so I want to talk about that, like how that came about, you know, and why the message behind it is so important. Like, I love that song.
Thank you so much. I just got chills. It's probably one of my most important songs. I wrote it as a part of it was going to be the spring EP. My most recent release was Winter Nights, which came out during the winter season. And I conceptualized I was going to do 4 EPs seasonal. So it was winter, and it was going to be spring, then summer, then fall. And, you know, things happen. God has other plans. And so the pandemic came. And so I was almost done with spring. But I wanted to tweak a couple things, but I wasn't able to. Mm-hmm. And once everything got shut down, I was just listening to it. It was the last song that would be on the spring EP. And it's just such a positive feeling. I'm like, I should put this out. And it's like, no, I shouldn't put it out. And it's like, yeah. So from my Avatone label, I decided, I think it's a message that people, it's timely in so many ways. And it's a reflective song, a reflection and a reminder. You know, one of my favorite lines is, it's what we make of life now, because now is where we are. And a lot of people, you know, we can appreciate the lessons, which I talk about in there too, learn the lessons of the past, and, you know, use the knowledge as we move forward. And then now with, you know, the Black Lives Matter and social unrest, and one of the greatest civil rights movements that we've seen with diverse people. So then it took on a whole new meaning. About love, and it's an inspirational song, you know, the dance groove and Red Top remix, and it's the first thing when I go work out every morning, and when I'm like, ugh, I don't feel like it, I just play it, and it's like, okay, girl, let's go. So thank you. I'm glad you like it, and I just released the lyric video to it, which is really beautifully done by Sean West.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, because I thought, you know what, a lot of times, like, especially during this pandemic, and people have been, I feel like as I've just been reading social media, a lot of people have been very reflective, very in that like space of healing. And, you know, and then I saw people saying, oh, here we go with these retrogrades and the planets and all this stuff. So it's like, we are doing a lot of purging and healing right now. Yeah. So it's great timing.
And you know, it was needed. It's like, you know, the environment was healing. I mean, when you would see some of the footage and, a lot of the animals coming out and just being more seen, and the water, being more blue. And I think it was in Venice, Italy, that canal was like sparkling. And so, yeah, it's just a healing on so many levels that was required. And we're obviously at a pivotal time in life. And, I'm kind of a reflective person anyway. But this just kind of took it all to a new level.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you decided to go ahead and release it, because it was definitely needed for sure. So now we are going to stroll down memory lane a little bit. 31 years ago, one of my favorite albums, Larger Than Life, was released. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I was just on Amazon earlier because I was like, I got to get the vinyl because I collect vinyl. And I was like, I need this album in vinyl. So tell me a little bit about that, recording that album. And of course we can pick out a couple songs to talk about, but just overall, what was the vibe like back then? Or, did you go in knowing exactly the type of album that you wanted to put out at that time?
Yeah, very much like my first album, like my debut. I really tried to be focused, to be a woman who knows what she wants to do. And luckily at that time, which I shared something on my Instagram today, but Gerald Busby, who signed me to MCA, he really understood me. He got me, and he supported me being kind of a force of nature in that, I know who I want to work with production wise. I want to write, the songs, and I know what I want the album covers to look like. And so he allowed that. So started writing the album, which I did predominantly with Andre Simone. And I just had a template of, more funky, edgy dance beats. The first single, Real Love, which is, probably one of my favorite songs, and videos. That video still kicks ass today. I love that.
Yes, it does.
There's passion, and yes, Miss Jody. But it's really, the pinnacle of pop R&B. And, the thing that was very important for me was to not be like other female artists. It's like, I did have some clashes here and there with other people in the label. Like they wanted me to have dancers, and it's like, well, Janet Jackson has dancers, Michael Jackson has dancers, and that's not me. It's like, and the ironic thing is because I started as a teenager as a dancer, people always, it's like, well, surely she's going to come out and, but if you notice, it's like I did some dancing, but really the niche that I created for myself was that fashion, high fashion attitude. And I brought the, Black girls being kind of different and fashion forward, but funky, and all these different things, little outcast, outsider girl thing. And not everybody got it. And so that's something that really stands out to me because, I would get that, she doesn't smile a lot, people, the label would say, your pictures, which by the way, conceptualizing the album cover, I wanted to do a complete 360 from the first, which is so strong, big hair. To this day, it's like the big hair and the hoop earrings, which I still love.
But yes, I wore mine today just for you.
I know, I appreciate that, and that's a signature. So, but second album, more streamlined, so more fashion forward. So the album cover was photographed by Stephen Meisel, who was Italian Vogue is what his thing was. And, I convinced the record company, because I told Gerald, I said, I don't want my album cover, even the first album, I don't want it to look like other R&B, because they all, for me, look the same. And it's like, I want something else. So the music really went with the visual. And, so we went about writing the songs, and I also wrote again with Franny Go. We did Something New, which is one of my favorites. It wasn't a single, but Franny and I wrote Don't You Want Me on my day. And she's one of my best friends still. We wrote that for my debut album. The pinnacle song for me for my second album is Friends with Eric B. and Rakim.
Yes. And
it doesn't get the acknowledgement for being the first rap song collaboration to cross over Hot 100 R&B, dance, and and rap, hip hop. And you know, a lot of people think Mariah Carey started it. In fact, I was tagged on Twitter a couple months ago, and you know, these fans, like, they'll start coming at you, and it's like, look, I'm just telling you the facts. It's no disrespect, because the thing is, you know, other artists come and they're able to make it even bigger, and that's great. And it takes nothing away from anyone that's come after and done sold more records and more hits and everything. But then the fact remains that, you know, what I did with Eric B. and Rakim was unprecedented at the time. And so early stations then, they were like, we don't play rap. They would edit Rakim's verse out.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it's a collaboration that I'm so proud of. I just, we finally did the song together. It was a virtual performance, but they were celebrating 30 years of Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em. So we performed it together.
Yes, I saw. I was so hype about that. That was awesome.
I was in tears at the end. I was so overwhelmed. So yeah, you know, second album, you know, people sometimes say, you know, is it going to be a jinx? And it's like, no, second album did great as well. And, you know, the ballad, everything. I went on my first tour, solo tour, with the second album. And so, you know, it still, you know, holds up very well, I think.
Absolutely. And I think actually what I wrote was that, because I wanted to talk about Friends, because it was such, like you said, it was this, to me, it's like the marriage of genres. And I think that's the best way to describe it. And like you said, like, people don't realize, like, at that time, that was unheard of. So, you know, even Michael Jackson didn't incorporate rap till later. So in the 90s. So, So when you decided that this is the song you're going to do, and how did you go about picking Eric B. and Rakim?
When I was writing the lyrics, you know, I was saying, you know, have you ever been stabbed in the back by someone you thought was really cool? And then I'm, you know, writing, and it's a song about backstabbing and betrayal. And, you know, Paid in Full was out then, and it just in my mind, I'm like, I want to do this song as a duet. I called it a duet. To show you how early it was. And, you know, as I've said before, Michael McDonald and Patti LaBelle had their big hit duet On My Own. So when I pitched it to the label, it'll be a duet like Michael McDonald and Patti are doing, but only Rakim will rap where Michael McDonald would be singing, you know, sort of thing. And so they were kind of apprehensive at first. And then they said, okay. And then I said, and I want to do it with Eric B. and Rakim. Eric B. scratching and Rakim, because Rakim is just his voice. Yeah. So they didn't want Rakim at first. And I've told this story before, because they didn't see how we went together, because he wasn't pop or anything. And, you know, for me, the appeal was that, number one, I was a fan of theirs. So it was coming from an authentic place, not, you know, well, who's going to get the most PR, or, I mean, things is that these to everything, it's like a PR angle, or what will hype me on the charts. It was just, look, it's got to be Rakim. He's the best. He's the go. His tone and his delivery. So they wanted me to do it with Will Smith, was, you know, Fresh Prince, because parents just don't understand, you know, so pop and pop. And
yeah, I can't even, like, thinking about that now, I'm like, I can't even hear it in my head how that would have worked.
It would, you know, because Will, it's like, you know, he's happy-go-lucky. I mean, he's so talented, but it's like, it's like he's an assassin. It's like friends are hard to find. Like, you know, it had to be that it wasn't a happy kind of, it was real. So eventually convinced them to let me do it. Luckily, Eric B. and Rakim, he heard the song, and we had a conversation on the phone. And I was so nervous, I'd say that. And he was so cool, you know. He's very laid back, just like he is now.
Yeah.
And I didn't know at the time he's an Aquarian like me. I think our birthday is either the same day or a day apart.
Oh, wow.
So we had like a kindred spirit thing happening that I didn't know. Like, wow, it was easier than I thought. I didn't really have to convince. He was like, you know, whatever, I'm down with it. And so he came to LA and we did the song together in the studio. Eric B came. So we were all in the studio together, and they had some, you know, the posse situation. And, you know, at the time, it's like no cell phones. I wish I had footage of it, but it was great. And he was so easygoing. And then we did the video together in New York, and that was a trip too.
Yeah, even the video was groundbreaking.
Yeah, definitely. And I just, you know, I was a little nervous because it's like the concept Club Couture. And, you know, and I explained it to them. It's like, you know, this is going to be like an underground club, and I want some of everybody in there. So I just want you guys to know it's like, and the director made it like, well, it'd be like a talent competition to make the framework. Because, I mean, it's, you know, transgender, drag queens, and fire eaters, and I heard some vulgars and b-boys. And, you know, for me, it was like a message without being heavy-handed of togetherness and acceptance in the dopest underground club. And I'm in couture, Gaultier, and it worked. It was like a real legit underground club. Everybody in the video were real people, real club goers, the best of the underground scene. And Tyrone Proctor, who I must mention, a Soul Train legend, who just passed away a couple weeks ago, he helped me cast everybody, like, because he lived in New York. And so he got Connie Girl, and he got all the kids to show up and be in that video.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I love the blog that you wrote about Tyrone. So you know, I want everybody to read it because it was I loved it.
Thank you.
Let's see. So I'm just going to pick a couple more songs that we can chat about. You've mentioned something new, and I actually wrote that down.
Yes, that one, that lyric, you know, again, as a writer, I just come from, you know, it may not always be about me specifically, but sometimes it is, and, you know, going through relationship problems. And that line, I used to say, when I fell in love, it'd be forever. But time has made me realize it's not so easy. And that was so true, because it's like being in love is no joke, and it's not easy. It's not what my childhood fantasy of it was. Right. So again, it's like, you know, I just try to, you know, deliver the realness, and that's, you know, let's try something new. It's like when you're in a relationship and, well, let's just switch it up. Because you want it to work, but in your mind, you know it's not going to work out. Right. And that led me into my third album, which we'll do another interview on, but something new. It's one of my favorites from that album. Yes. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? Preach on that. Like, you're like, no, it's not going to work. One of my absolute favorites is Everything. I love that song. Yeah. So thank you. What about that song, you know, creating that song and putting that one together? Everything is, you know, definitely one of my favorites in concert. You know, it's always a tearjerker. I do it many ways. Sometimes I do it just piano and vocal. But it's a great song. I didn't write that. It was one of the few songs that I didn't write. And but for me as a songwriter, if I'm given a song or someone presents a song, I have to feel like, damn, I wrote that. Like, it's like, that's me. So Gardner Cole, who's a phenomenal songwriter, and he co-wrote most of all on my solo debut.
Mm-hmm.
And Gardner Cole, and I teased him because he was so picky. He didn't just give song, but he said, I have something that this is for you. And I was like, Gardner, like, really? Like, you know, because he was, you know, just always too cool for school. And he had his mega stars that he was giving his song. But this one was for me. And as soon as he played it, it's like, I wrote this song. He wrote it, but it's like, this, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just such a beautiful song, a timeless song, and my most successful ballad, obviously. So that's a great choice. And, you know, the video for it is a montage of scenes from my debut tour. And a lot of the footage also was from the Universal Amphitheater, which I have to say that I never got the full footage of the tour, the video. The video director absconded with it. And I always think, you know, I'm still trying to Google him. I need that footage.
Maybe he'll see this. Give Jody her stuff.
Yes.
So looking back at, let's say, you know, 1989, is there anything that you would have changed, even with that album? Is there anything that you would have changed at all? Or I would say no, but
no, you know, the thing that stands out to me is one thing that happened business-wise is as soon as my album, the second album was released, Gerald Busby was moved over to Motown, and a lot of the promotion team was dismantled, who were all fired up and ready to go. They worked on the first album. And then, you know, MCA, that's when the music business was starting to shift, because then there was talks that the label was going to be sold to Seagram's, but that would happen later. But that just hurt me to not have Gerald Busby to be there to see the project through fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Gerald Busby also wanted me to use a different producer for my second album. And I kind of held my guns to working with Andre. But, you know, I don't regret it. But I think, you know, politics in the business, and sometimes, you know, if Ella and Babyface are really hot, you should work with them. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, it's like, but for me, Jimmy Jam and Terry, that's Janet, you know. Ella and Babyface, and that came up again on my third album. And if I would change, I probably would have done a song with them.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, no. I you know, at the time in life, you know, you make the choices that you make, and I never wanted to be an artist that was like, oh, she's bandwagoning this one, or
right.
You know. And you know, a lot of artists, it's like you know, at some point, I think it was my third album, and they wanted me to work with Teddy Riley, and I didn't do it. And I look back on that, and I'm like, well, why didn't you just do one song with him?
Now, I know the last time we talked, we had and I didn't even include it in the written interview that we did, but I was telling somebody, I was like, I got to ask Jody again about the perfume because they didn't believe me. I was like, yeah, perfume.
Yes, there is the if I had known you were going, I would have go get it out of the storage closet. But yeah, there was a Jody Watley perfume. You know, I had these ideas in early branding that, you know, people didn't really get like the correlation, but I know that people, they were copying my style. And then in terms of like perfume, and I don't know if Elizabeth Taylor had White Diamonds in, maybe it's after that, but it was around that time. And I was like, I need a perfume,
mm-hmm.
you know, like White Diamonds, or, you know, it was Jody perfume. very a warm scent, not too floral. And I still have one bottle of it. And,
oh, wow.
you know,
Wow.
that's why, you know, when I look at, I wanted a clothing line. It was, you know, I would be having these meetings and executives would just be looking at me like, okay, that's very nice. It was nice meeting you. Thank you. Have a nice day. And so, you know, when I that's why I love Rihanna is my favorite contemporary female artist. And one thing that I love, and I'm so proud of her, she's phenomenal. She's smart. She's outspoken. She's fearless. She changes, you know, she's fashionable, but she's, like I said, she's not just a look. She's smart.
Right.
And she's been able to take her fashion and style sensibility and make it, you know, all these multi-million-dollar empires, you know. And so I'm like, that would be me if I was coming out, you know. But everything, you know, in its time. But I think about this like, damn, you know, I was too ahead of the curve.
Right. Yeah.
But, you know, good for the ones that, again, it's like to be in the fashion magazines, and that wasn't really the thing then either. But to see how it all like progressed, and to know that I'm a part of that. They may not know it, but those that know like me. And so I'm proud of that, you know, that
Absolutely.
others have been able to do it.
Yes. And it was amazing to turn on the TV or even look in a magazine and be like, you know what, there's someone right here that looks just like me, you know, and,
yes.
you know, and the music just spoke to me. I can remember blasting Real Love just as loud as possible in my room.
You know, and I love it. And just that whole attitude of, you know, I don't need your opinion. I don't need your advice. What I need, you can't give me. You know, accept no substitutes. Always go for the real thing. So I was speaking to the girls out there. It's like, look,
yes,
even if I wasn't totally getting it right myself, I knew what, you know, I knew.
Mm-hmm. And those lyrics are still true today.
It's so true. Yes, absolutely. You know, oh man. Yeah. I mean, you know, when I'd be writing, it's just, you know, it's like a journal entry. And then, you know, some songs come to me really easy. That was one, Real Love. You know, I said I would get over you. Now I'm here on my own, trying to live my life. Mm-hmm. Now you want to come back. But I don't need no brand new lies. I don't need no brand new lies. And, you know, we all have them. So
right. Exactly.
Brand new lies. I don't want the old ones or the new ones.
So I have to ask, what else are you working on? Are you, you know, do you have another perfume coming out or anything else, you know, music wise? And, you know, obviously things are kind of up in the air with this pandemic. So I know a lot of people are still just kind of figuring out how to do shows online versus, you know, touring or anything like that. So
right.
Next for you.
Well, I do have a home fragrance, Sanctuary, that is coming because I'm very about, I had the candle Sanctuary, which sold out. And so I'm bringing the candle back as well as an interior fragrance. And it's very warm, very warm and beautiful, clean, not too overbearing. So that's coming to my online store. Okay. And I think I would like to go into, you know, expand upon those things. I'm very much Sanctuary. I have a song Sanctuary, but it's like our home, and being home so much now, even right. more important to have a good vibe, you know, walk in the door. It's like, it smells good. It looks good, mm-hmm. you know. So that's on the list. And I've been continuing to write. I really am trying to finish my memoir. When the pandemic first started, like everybody, I had a list, a scroll of
right.
this. I'm going to tackle all my house things that I've been wanting to do and da-da-da. And a week into it, I just said, you know what? I'm not making a list of anything. I'm just going to do nothing if I want to do that. I'm going to take a nap if I want to. Just going to chill. I'm going to work out. Maybe I won't work out. maybe I'll just light a candle and stare into the garden, you know.
Yeah.
So it dawned on me that I've been really on the go for the most part since I was 14, grinding, trying to make it, be something, do something, make things happen. And though through the years I've taken time off here and there, you know, raised my daughter and son. But this is a different one because those were by choice. It's like, well, I'm not going to do as many concerts. I've never been afraid to say no to things. But this time it's like, well, Mother Nature, God in the universe, whatever, it's just like everybody's going to just do nothing.
Yes.
God
said,
so
sit down.
I took the pressure off and to get things done. But I'm back to writing again because I do want to finish it and develop different ideas from, but I have to finish the memoir first.
Okay. And
musically, the healing is it with the other EPs, because I'm personally still kind of sheltering in place for the most part. And, you know, concert wise, I have not reached out to booking agents to, well, let's talk about 2021. I've really not put that pressure on. It's like, it's actually kind of good to not, I'm just trying to be in the moment and enjoy it. And so well, let me make sure I have a set of dates already coming for 2021 and let me announce those. It's like, you know, because I don't, you know, with this virus and traveling and getting on a plane, I can't even wrap my head around. I don't even want to think about it. You know? And I'll be honest too. And I thought, well, what if you never are going to do concerts unless it's somewhere you can drive to in California? Then that would just be it, you know. And I've had so many great experiences live, and I love performing live. So, but I'm very much one of, you know, you have to can't stress about things, because it doesn't really get us anywhere, and you kind of have to just. It's like I love basketball, and they say let the game come to you. So I'm just gonna let the game come to me, so to speak. In terms of concerts,
right?
You know, still good to have goals, but then also we need breathing room too. You know, everybody. It's like in this time, like take advantage of a little breathing room. That's good. That's good for us.
Yes. And I was just about to ask you, like, for my last question, because here on Check the Rhymes, I've been in the space of like doing affirmations and, you know, the positive vibes and, you know, making this my sanctuary, just like you mentioned, like, you know, making sure I'm, you know, if I want to sit here and take a nap, I will, or just sit and stare at the candles and, you know, same thing. But are there any affirmations that you're telling yourself every day, just, you know, just to keep going and, you know, stay positive and uplifted?
You know, probably one of them, the first thing I just say, "Ooh, thank you, Jesus." Like when I wait, it's like, that's number one, just always every day in gratitude. And one of the things I do in the morning is I have little tea light, and sometimes I light more than one, but before I do anything else, I say a meditative prayer, you know, with like myself and my children, my mom, and anybody that may need a blessing. So I have quiet time in the morning before I get myself together and have tea, cleansing tea and coffee. But I always just say, begin, because if there's something yesterday that it's like, wow, you know, I didn't write as much as I wanted to. It's like, today, begin.
Yeah.
You know, and that really just kicks it off. It's like every day is a new beginning. And that is probably one of the main, every day is a new beginning.
Yes.
What was yesterday is just every day is a new beginning. And that's one of the main ones that I always say, you know.
I love that. I keep a gratitude journal. So every morning I write in it, and I just noticed that today I was like, wait, I've been writing the same thing every day. I like, I'm grateful because it's another day, new opportunities, new chances to do different things. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I have to get back to, I was a big journaler from, you know, when I was in junior high with my diaries and things. and then I would stop and I would go back to it. And then, but I think I've been reading too. I've been reading Michelle Obama's Becoming. Finally got around to just, okay, I'm going to read it. And one of the things that she says in there is that she was journaling and then she stopped. And then it's like years would go by and then she would, so I felt like, okay, good.
Yeah, it's not just you.
Don't pick it up and begin.
Yeah. Well,
so I need to, but it's really good for people to do that. It's very cleansing and clearing, and it gets you out of your own head.
Yes.
When you write it down, it's like, even with goals, it's like when they say, write it down. And it's good for young people, older people, like no matter what your age is, it's like to express, and it's just for you. It's like to write what you're thankful for, what you want to change, what you've learned, just to get it out of here.
Yes.
It's very important. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
So journal, people.
Yes. Right. Well, thank you, Miss Jody Watley, for coming on Check the Rhymes. Let everybody know what your website is, because I want them to, I love your blogs. I love your blogs. So I want people to read them.
Thank you. My blog is at jodywatley.net. That's JODYWATLEY.net. And I spell it out because you'd be surprised how many people still spell my name wrong.
I understand. And I'll make sure to put the link down below as well in the description so that people can make sure they can find you and your social media handles as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we must do this again and revisit the third album and the ones after that.
Girl. It's my pleasure. I love talking to you. So thank you. Thank you. And I love what you're doing. So just keep doing it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.